Yo guys, it's JJ here, and of course by the title of the video, you've clicked on this to watch the DDG tutorial, and without further ado, let's just get straight into this. First of all, for the main melody, we got ourselves a guitar, and the preset was from the guitar bank in, of course, Omnispheres. And the preset, of course, is just the jazz guitar pick B. As for the melody, as you guys can see, very simple, but let's get through this. I started off with the nice root notes, then took it up an octave, and then once I've done that, as you guys can see, built these nice little chords. Started with a minor, then a major, and then back into a minor. After I did that with the chords, as you guys can see from here, here, and here, I added these nice little like filler notes, or transitional notes to say it actually, and it just gave it a nice little bit more rhythm, so I thought it suited the beat quite well. And then last but not least, I just clicked that Alt-R to randomize the velocity, makes it sound more human, authentic, and less of like a robotic play. And without further ado, this is what the sound sounds like. And there you have it. And as you can see, it sounds super emotional, super nice. I mean, DDG can glide over, so I did the job really well. As for effects, we got quite a few, but let's just get straight into it. First of all, I got myself an EQ, calling off a lot of the lows, a few of the highs, and then a few frequencies I wasn't a fan of. I just ducked them down a bit. Next up, we got ourselves RC20, and this was the preset I used within it. And the adjustment I made, I think, was to do with the wobble and the noise, but that was all it really was. And on top of that, I added a 3D chorus because it gave it this nice little like hypnotic sound, if you know what I mean. Then I added the delay with these presets to give the guitar a bit more rhythm, a bit more of a nice little groove. So did the job really well. And then of course a bit of reverb to, you know, enhance the stereo separation, make it more ambient. Just did the job nicely. And last but not least, I stereo separated the whole mixer track by like 30%. And then of course, now we got ourselves the bass line because you can't go anywhere without a bass. So we got ourselves Omnisphere again. And of course, you know how it be, using the Growler Moog bass because hey, it has a special place in my heart. It sounds dope. You can't go wrong with it. As for what I did was just simple as just following the root notes. And that's all you need to do. So this is what the bass sounds like. And there you have it. As for effects, all I added was a decapitator with dark fat, and I just adjusted the drive knob just a bit. Next up, we got ourselves an instance of Analog Lab, and I used a preset called Found. And what I did was I just copied the chord progression as you guys could see, except it's not been like arpeggiated or strummed. And I just played like a beat ahead of where it should be, because it gives it just this nice little extra bounce. Thought it sounded dope, so without further ado, this is the pad. And there you have it. As for effects, I added a Portal preset called Over, and if I remember correctly, it was one of these banks, but I highly recommend getting Portal banks. Next up, I added an EQ, just calling off pretty much all the lows, and then a heavy amount of reverb, as you guys can see, just to really stereo separate it, and I ducked it down in the mix, so, you know, it's a nice little bit of ear candy. On top of that, I stereo separated this to 100%, so it was super wide in the field, but really did do the job well. And then, of course, last but not least, for the melody, we got ourselves a preset called Source Stack, and it's from the Polysynth Spank in Expand 2. As for the counter melody, all I did was just follow some of the notes within the chord progression, and I played around with it. Very simple, very nice, but it just adds that little bit of extra flavor that the beat needed. So without further ado, this is what the counter melody sounds like. And there you have it. As for effects, I added this EQ, calling off a few of the highs and a lot of the lows. Next up, I added the 3 Panamatic, and all I did was just let the sound go between your headphones from like left to right, and it just made it sound a bit nicer. It's a bit more ear candy. It's just stuff for the artist and the listener and the producer to like enjoy, really, to be honest. On top of that, I added a 3D chorus, and then of course a heavy amount of reverb. Then last but not least, before I play the melody, what I did was I rendered out all the sounds, and I took it down to minus 185 cents, which is approximately 2 semitones. So we went down from an A sharp down to a G sharp minor. And the reason it's not exactly 200 cents on the dot is because sometimes just going a bit off adds just a nice little bit of character, and it sounds just a bit nicer. But without further ado, this is what the melody sounds like. And there you have it. Sounds super wavy. It's like a drowning kind of sound in my opinion. Super, super vibey. And I think DDG would really, really float over this beat. So there you go. Now for the drums. First thing I did, of course, you know, gotta get yourself a nice little clap pattern going. Or in this case, I used a rim shot. So basic rim shot pattern as you guys can see. And this is what it sounds like. And there you have it. Very straightforward, very simple. Next up, we got the kick pattern. And as you guys can see, it just repeats every 4 bars, but you always want to make sure you click that Control A, and then you max your velocity out, because it really, really allows the kick to punch through everything. So there you have it. And without further ado, this is what the kick sounds like. And there you have it. Very spacious, very nice, but whenever the kick comes through, especially with the 808 or the bass, it just really, really hits good. Now, next up, we got ourselves, of course, the 808 pattern. And you know, click that Control A, max your velocity out as per usual with the scroller wheel. You really, really want that bass to be hitting through. And as for the pattern, it's the exact same as the kick pattern, but just following the root notes of the chord progression that was played at the very beginning. So this is what the 808 pattern sounds like. And there you have it. Next up, we got ourselves a very nice open hat pattern. Comes in every 2 bar, as you guys can see, and it just does the job really good. So without further ado, this is what the open hat sounds like. And there you have it. And now, of course, last but not least, we got ourselves the hi-hat pattern. Super fundamental to this beat, in my opinion. And as you guys can see, it's a very stripped back hi-hat pattern. And I just repeat it every 4 bar. I'll run you guys through it. First of all, we literally just come in with a nice 1-step note. Over here, I use the half-step tool to get myself a nice little roll. And with that half-step tool, I used another roll here. And then this roll, I had to get it onto quarter step. Literally just dragged it down, and I played with the velocity to make it sound super nice. And then I came up with this dope roll. It was complete accident, but sometimes like the best things come from accidents. So it was a really, really nice roll, and that's how I made the hat pattern. Very simple, straightforward. Sometimes you just don't need to put too much because it just does the job really well. So this is what it sounds like. And there you have it. And now, without further ado, this is what the whole drum pattern sounds like together. And there you have it. Sounds super, super dope. I loved this beat when I made it, I can't lie, and I really hope you guys have enjoyed it as well. And speaking of enjoying, you've made it to the end of the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure to comment, like, subscribe, all that stuff down below. You know, turn the notification bell on as well, because you don't want to miss these videos. I'm telling you now, they're straight popping. So, thanks for watching. Take it easy. Peace.